Thank you all. I have to say, watching some of those early videos from literally 30 years ago was kind of interesting. It's like seeing a son you never knew you had. I want to thank Marty Ryan and our great staff at Fox News Sunday for putting together that wonderful and overly generous video. You put it together just the way I wrote it. I also want to thank the National Press Foundation for giving me this award. As has been made clear earlier, you do a great job in providing educational programs for young and aspiring journalists from this country and around the world. I am honored to receive it, and as you guys mentioned, as John mentioned, I want to donate the money that comes with it to the Press Foundation to continue your programs. Thank you. I want to note that this is the Taishoff Award, named, and for a lot of you, I'm sure you don't know who that is, named after the founder and the editor of Broadcasting Magazine. Saul was a dear friend of my stepfather, Bill Leonard, and it means a great deal to me to receive an award, especially in his name and especially with his grandson, Rob, here on the dais. Rob, please wave to the crowd. And I want to thank my dear wife, Lorraine, a.k.a. Mrs. Sunday. She feeds me, as Roger sort of unfortunately mentioned, she feeds me soup on Sundays after the show. She also feeds me chicken on Saturday nights before the show, as all of you will learn in her new book called Mr. Sunday's Saturday Night Chicken, which will be for sale in May. I'm not kidding. She said if I didn't thank her, I should forget about coming home, and quite frankly, I can't think of anything worse in the world than not being able to come home to my dear Lorraine. I want to talk briefly tonight about three men who have been giants in broadcasting and who have meant so much to me, both in my life and my career. First of all, the fellow you saw there at the end, Roger Ailes, the chairman of Fox News. To put it simply, and he's not here, so I'm not just blowing smoke, he is the best boss I have ever worked for. Think about it. This is a man who has created an enormously influential source of information for the American people out of nothing. 15 years ago, 15 short years ago, Fox News didn't exist. Now it is, whether you like it or not, a central part of the national conversation. Roger also communicates a sense of mission more effectively than any boss I've ever worked for. The highest professional standards, an unrelenting drive to win, and a continuing sense that we're the little guys. But when people come to Fox News, what I think surprises them most isn't any of that. It's what a nice place it is to work. Roger likes to say negative people make positive people sick. No one, well, almost no one, is a jerk, because Roger won't allow it. I don't have to tell you that's not an easy thing to pull off in television news. As Roger once wrote to the staff, we contribute to the most exciting profession in the world, and we live in America. That is the house that Roger has built, and I am so proud to be a part of it. The second giant I want to talk about is my late stepfather, Bill Leonard. Most of you don't know who he was, but he was the single most important person in my life, and it was all because of TV news. Back in 1952, my mother was watching coverage of the Democratic National Convention in black and white on television when she saw a handsome man reporting on Adlai Stevenson from the place where he was staying, which was just around the corner from our apartment. She apparently used me, then all of 4 years old, as bait, putting me on my tricycle for a ride around the block to see the excitement. 5 years later, they married, and Bill Leonard became my stepfather. Now, any of you who knew him remember what an absolutely wonderful man he was, what a kind man. In a business filled with sharp elbows and even sharper words, he was a truly gentle man. He was also a great journalist. He invented exit polls. He invented election night projections. He was largely responsible for the creation of 60 Minutes and CBS Sunday Morning. But the broadcasts that I remember the best were the ones that we did when I was a kid in our Oldsmobile whenever the car would reach a milestone, 10,000 miles, 25,000 miles. Riding in the car, true story, we would do a CBS News special report. He would be the anchor, of course, in the driver's seat, and he would throw it to me sitting in the back seat as the White House correspondent reporting on what the success of our car meant to the U.S. auto industry. Or I would be on the assembly line in Detroit with the auto worker who had put together our Oldsmobile. Yes, the specials were overproduced and they always came in over budget, but I thought they were just grand. Finally, I want to talk about my father, Mike Wallace. You know, it's funny. I spent so much of my early life trying to get out from under his shadow. Now, as my father nears his 94th birthday and is slipping away, I don't want you to forget him. He wasn't easy. Any of you who knew him can testify to that, but he was vibrant and funny and demanding and a truly great reporter. As someone once said, he had an underdeveloped sense of other people's privacy. Can you imagine? Can you imagine coming home as a teenager from a date and Mike Wallace is sitting up waiting for you? Where did you go, he asks. What did you do? How would you like to explain these hidden camera videos? Maybe one of the reasons that Fox has been such an easy fit for me is because he was such a contrarian. I remember one classic story he did for 60 Minutes back in the 60s. At the height of the busing controversy, he came to Washington to see where all the liberals, the folks who were telling all the people in South Boston where to send their kids, where all the liberals were sending their kids. Ted Kennedy, private school. Jesse Jackson, the same. The only Democrat he could find who sent his kids to D.C. public schools and who did it because he thought it was the right thing to do was the so-called conservative Democrat Henry Scoop Jackson. My father taught me so much about this business. He taught me to always pursue both sides of the story, to prepare so thoroughly for an interview that you make it clear to the subject that there's no use in even trying to spin you because you know too much. What all these men did, Roger Ailes and Bill Leonard and Mike Wallace, is to teach me what a great way it is to make a living. What a big responsibility it is, how hard we must push ourselves to meet the highest standards of professionalism, but also, and never forget this, and I think I speak for everybody on this dais, how lucky we are. The opportunity to travel the world, to meet key players, to ask the questions that so many Americans would like to ask if they were sitting where we are, and to be an eyewitness to history. I've had the opportunity to travel with the great Cold Warrior Ronald Reagan to Moscow to meet with Mikhail Gorbachev, to conduct presidential debates, to play horse with Michael Jordan or dog, and yes, even to interrogate the Olsen twins. As Roger Ailes likes to say, it sure beats laying pipe in Ohio. Never forget that, and thank you so much for this very special evening.